Peace comes from within, do not seek it without. Buddha. The kingdom of God is within you. Jesus. Have you ever asked yourself, what do the Buddha and Jesus truly have in common? Is it possible to walk two spiritual paths without getting lost? And what if the answer you've been looking for was both? Hello, dear friends. Welcome back to Son.Mindfulness. Or if this is your first time, thank you for being here. This is a place of quiet reflection, a gentle voice amid the noise, a space created for hearts like yours. Today's video invites you into a sacred question, one that has stirred minds and souls for centuries. Can we learn from both the Buddha and Jesus together? This is more than philosophy. It's about how we live, how we love, how we find peace in an uncertain world. Many people today feel spiritually lost, torn between traditions, or disconnected from any path at all. Some grew up in churches, some found silence in temples, some in their later years are asking, what really brings me peace? And that's exactly why this conversation matters. In this video, you'll discover not just what the Buddha and Jesus taught, but how their wisdom still speaks to our lives today. Through suffering, through love, through stories, through silence, you'll hear parables, you'll meet real people from history, and you may just see yourself reflected in their journeys. Here at Son.Mindfulness, we explore timeless truths that heal, awaken, and inspire the soul. So if you value inner peace, if you're searching for meaning, if you want to grow with kindness in your later years, please consider subscribing and supporting our gentle community. You are most welcome here. We wish you health, peace, joy, and may life always bring you blessings. Now stay with us, because what happens when a prince under a tree meets a carpenter on a hill? Let's begin this journey together. Section 1. Historical backdrop. Two lives, two worlds. Have you ever wondered what kind of world shaped the Buddha and Jesus? What kind of pain did they see that made them turn inward? What did they walk away from, and what did they walk toward? Let us gently step back into time, to two lands, 2 centuries apart, yet both filled with longing for something more. The Buddha, born a prince, yet yearning for peace. Siddhartha Gautama was born around the 6th century BCE in what is now Nepal. He was born into a royal family surrounded by luxury, music, and silks. Everything he needed was offered before he could ask. He lacked nothing except inner peace. His father, a powerful king, shielded him from pain. Siddhartha grew up within palace walls, never seeing old age, sickness, or death. But can a life without suffering also be a life without truth? One day, curiosity pushed him beyond the gates. He saw an old man, then a sick man, then a corpse, then a monk in serene meditation. Something inside him broke open. Have you ever had a moment when your worldview shattered in silence? That's when his real journey began. He left his palace, wife, and newborn son. He walked away from comfort, choosing the path of seeking. He tried everything: fasting, isolation, extreme discipline. But none of it brought freedom. Until under a Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, he sat still. He watched his breath, he watched his mind, and as dawn broke, enlightenment came. He saw the nature of suffering and the way beyond it, and from that day, he was no longer Siddhartha the prince. He became the Buddha, the awakened one. Now let's cross to another land. Jesus Christ, the carpenter's son, born for grace. Jesus of Nazareth was born in Bethlehem over 500 years later. His beginnings were humble. No palace, no silk, just a stable and straw. His parents were simple people, Mary and Joseph. He grew up in Nazareth, a small town, working with his hands as a carpenter. But from childhood, he spoke with unusual wisdom. By age 12, he was debating temple teachers. He didn't seek power or wealth. He walked among the poor, the sick, the outcasts. He saw injustice, pride, suffering. He spoke of a new kingdom, one not built by swords or thrones. He taught love over law, forgiveness over revenge. And when he was baptized by John the Baptist in the Jordan River, something shifted. The heavens opened. The Spirit descended. His public mission began. Have you ever felt a call so deep you couldn't ignore it? Jesus traveled from village to village. He healed, he taught, he comforted, and he disturbed the powerful. He was seen as a rebel, a prophet, a threat. He was arrested, mocked, and crucified. Yet 3 days after his death, his tomb was found empty. And to those who followed him, this was not the end, but the beginning. They believed he had risen, that death had been conquered, that love had the final word. Both men walked away from what the world offered. One from royalty, one from obscurity. Both offered something deeper in return. Not gold, not land, but peace of the heart, clarity of the mind, and freedom from fear. Their stories continue to move billions. But before they became teachers, they were seekers, just like us. Have you ever felt the call to look within? To leave behind what no longer serves you? To walk a path not of comfort, but of meaning? This is the soil from which their teachings grew. And from here, we now move into the wisdom that defined them. Let's begin with the core teachings of the Buddha. Are you ready to listen with your whole heart? Section 2. The core teachings of the Buddha. What did the Buddha really teach? And why does it still matter after 2,500 years? Have you ever wondered why some people seem calm in chaos? Why some can smile in pain or stay centered when everything falls apart? For those who listened to the Buddha, the answer was simple, but not easy. He taught that life is not broken. Our understanding of life is, and through insight, we can return to balance. Let's explore the core truths he shared, truths that still ripple across the world today. 1. The Four Noble Truths, the foundation of Buddhist wisdom. After awakening under the Bodhi tree, the Buddha spoke his first teaching. It was not a command, not a law, but a gentle invitation to look closely at life. He spoke of 4 truths, simple, clear, and hard to ignore. The first truth: life involves suffering. This suffering isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, like the ache of loneliness or the fear of change. Even joy is tinged with sorrow because nothing lasts. Think of your happiest moments. Didn't part of you fear they might end? The cause of suffering is craving. We want more. We cling to youth, praise, love, control. But life doesn't stay still. So we suffer when things change or when they don't. Have you ever felt pain? Not from what happened, but from what you expected? The third truth: there's a way out of suffering. Suffering is not punishment, it's a signal. And if we can hear it, we can be free. Imagine living without fear of loss. Is that something you long for? The fourth truth: the way to end suffering is the Eightfold Path. A map, not a rulebook. A guide for wise, mindful, and compassionate living. 2. The Eightfold Path, a guide for daily life. The Buddha's path is not blind faith, it's grounded in direct experience. Each of the 8 parts invites us to live with clarity and care. Let's look at them, gently, one by one. Right understanding: see things as they are, not how we wish them to be. Have you ever clung to a false hope, only to be hurt later? Right view helps us start from truth, not illusion. Right intention: move through the world with kindness, not greed or anger. What would change if your every thought began with compassion? Right speech: words can hurt or heal. Have your words ever lifted someone's day or wounded it? Right action: live in a way that causes no harm. Imagine your actions as seeds. What are you planting? Right livelihood: earn your living without causing suffering. Can the way we work be an extension of our values? Right effort: guard the mind, nurture good habits, let go of harmful ones. Right mindfulness: stay present. Watch your breath, your body, your thoughts. Have you ever missed a moment because your mind was elsewhere? Right concentration: train the mind to stay steady. In stillness, we see clearly. This path isn't about being perfect. It's about waking up again and again. Like a candle lighting another candle, no fire is lost, but the light spreads. 3. Impermanence and non-self, the heart of insight. The Buddha also taught 2 ideas that many find hard, but liberating. The first is impermanence. Nothing lasts, not pain, not pleasure, not even who we think we are. Have you seen your face change in old photographs? That is impermanence. The second is anatta, non-self. There is no unchanging me, no fixed soul trapped in a body, just a river of thoughts, emotions, memories. This isn't meant to scare us, it's meant to set us free. If there's no solid self, then there's no self to protect, defend, or inflate. What would your life look like without clinging to identity? Could you love more freely? Forgive more quickly? Breathe more deeply? 4. Karma and rebirth. Actions ripple beyond this life. The Buddha also spoke of karma, not as punishment, but as cause and effect. Every thought, every word, every act ripples outward, like a pebble in a pond, and those ripples return. Rebirth is not just about future lives. We are reborn in every moment, shaped by our choices. Have you ever felt like a different person after a single decision? Karma is not fate. It is freedom. The freedom to shape your path with awareness. These teachings were not just for monks. They were for merchants, soldiers, mothers, kings. Even today, generals have found peace in mindfulness. Take U.S. Army Major General Dana Petard, who turned to meditation to navigate war stress. Or Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, who offered guidance to Martin Luther King Jr. during the Civil Rights era. They remind us, wisdom has no borders. The Buddha didn't promise heaven. He offered something deeper, liberation here and now. Have you tasted moments of freedom in your own life? Moments when the storm passed and you saw clearly? That clarity is always available. Through stillness, through compassion, through deep seeing. And now that we've walked the path of the Buddha, let's cross into the teachings of another great soul. Section 3. The core teachings of Jesus Christ awaits. Are you ready to listen again? This time through a different lens? Section 3. The core teachings of Jesus Christ. What did Jesus truly teach, and why do his words still echo across generations and continents? Have you ever heard a sentence so simple, yet it shook your soul? Have you ever felt the kind of love that expects nothing in return? That's the kind of presence Jesus carried with him. Not in temples of gold, but on dusty roads, in broken homes, and among people no one else dared touch. He didn't teach through power. He taught through presence. 1. Love and compassion, the heartbeat of Christ's message. When asked to summarize all law and prophets, Jesus didn't list commandments. He said, love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Think about that. What kind of world would this be if we truly lived by those two lines? Love for God, not out of fear, but as trust in the sacred mystery. Love for neighbor, not out of duty, but as recognition of shared humanity. And then comes the boldest part, love for enemies. Have you ever been hurt deeply by someone who never apologized? Could you love them? Jesus said, if you love only those who love you, what reward is there in that? He invited us to love as God loves, without condition. Not because others deserve it, but because we were made in love, for love. This wasn't a philosophy. It was a way of living, and a way of dying. Even as he hung on the cross, Jesus said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. 2. Grace and salvation, the gift you cannot earn. Unlike the karma of action and return, Jesus spoke of something radical. He called it grace, unmerited favor, a gift, not a reward. Can you imagine being forgiven before you even asked? That's how Jesus described God's love. Not a judge waiting to punish, but a father running to embrace a lost child. This is the essence of salvation. Not being saved from life, but being saved for life. For joy, for love, for a deeper belonging. Have you ever felt you weren't good enough for something sacred? Jesus spoke directly to that wound. He touched lepers. He welcomed tax collectors. He dined with prostitutes. He shattered the walls of worthiness. He said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Number 3, the Beatitudes, blessings for the unseen and undervalued. In what became known as the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus redefined success. He looked at the poor, the grieving, the meek, and called them blessed. Let's reflect on a few. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Have you ever felt empty inside? That emptiness, he says, is sacred space, room for God to fill. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Have you lost someone dear? That grief is not punishment, it is a passage, and comfort will come. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. In a world of sides and division, have you ever chosen peace? You then walk in divine footsteps. The Beatitudes were not poetry, they were a manifesto for a new way of being. 4. Parables. Lessons hidden in everyday life. Jesus didn't write books, he told stories, simple, vivid, and unforgettable. Let's revisit one you might know, the parable of the prodigal son. A younger son demands his inheritance early. He leaves home, squanders everything, ends up feeding pigs and starving. He decides to return, not as a son, but a servant. But before he reaches the gate, his father runs to him. He embraces him. No lecture, no shame, just a feast of welcome. Have you ever made a mistake you thought could never be forgiven? This story says, forgiveness is already on the way. All you have to do is come home. And the older son who stayed, who did everything right, was bitter. Jesus doesn't end the story. Why? Because the story is now yours. Which son are you? What will you do? 5. Forgiveness, healing, and rebirth. Jesus healed not just bodies, but hearts. He said to the woman caught in adultery, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." He wept with those who wept. He forgave those who betrayed him. He never asked people to be perfect. He asked them to come close. And in coming close, they were changed. Do you believe people can change? Do you believe you can change? Jesus did. He believed love could break cycles, that grace could rebuild broken lives. And that the worst thing that happens to you is not the end of your story. It may just be the beginning of your resurrection. Across deserts and villages, Jesus planted the seeds of a revolution. Not with swords, but with stories. Not with laws, but with love. And today, those seeds still bloom in the hearts of many. But what happens when we compare these two great teachers? Not to divide them, but to understand them side by side. That's what we'll explore next. Get ready for Section 4, Comparative Analysis, Buddha and Jesus side by side. The contrasts may surprise you, but the shared light will move you. Are you ready to continue the journey? Section 4, Comparative Analysis, Buddha and Jesus, side by side. What happens when you place a prince under a tree beside a carpenter on a hill? Are they worlds apart, or walking different paths toward the same truth? In this section, we won't try to prove one is right and the other is wrong. We'll do something more meaningful. We'll listen. Have you ever seen two people tell different stories, but you know they're describing the same sunrise? Let's explore how these two great teachers mirror, contrast, and complete one another. 1. Purpose of life. Liberation versus salvation. Buddha sought liberation, freedom from suffering, from craving, from rebirth. Jesus offered salvation, a return to God through grace into eternal life. For the Buddha, peace is found when the self is let go. For Jesus, peace is found when the soul is reunited with its Creator. Different starting points, but perhaps both end in wholeness. Buddha said, "There is no self." Jesus said, "Deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow me." Do you hear the echo? Both ask us to surrender something we cling to: ego, control, fear. But why? So we can live in deeper love. 2. Path of practice. Self-effort versus divine grace. Buddha taught the Eightfold Path, a discipline of right living. Step by step, breath by breath. Jesus taught faith, that belief in God's love is enough, not earned, just received. So do you find comfort in structure, or do you need mercy? Buddhism says, be a light unto yourself. Christianity says, let your light shine before others, so they may glorify your Father in heaven. 2 flames, 1 illumination. Buddha's way is a long walk home. Jesus' way is a hand reaching down to lift you up. Which do you need more right now, guidance or grace? 3. The self, anatta versus eternal soul. This is where their teachings feel most different. Buddha said there is no unchanging self. What we call me is just a bundle of changing thoughts and sensations. Letting go of self means letting go of suffering. Jesus taught that you have a soul, created in God's image, precious, known, eternal. Can these views live together? Let's try a question. When you close your eyes, do you feel like you are the same person you were 20 years ago? Or has your self changed? Maybe the Buddha helps us not cling to who we were, and Jesus reminds us we're always loved, no matter who we become. The divine, non-theistic enlightenment versus relationship with God. Buddhism is non-theistic. It doesn't deny God, but it doesn't require one. It focuses on direct experience, not belief in a deity. Christianity is deeply theistic. It centers on a loving, personal God, a father, a shepherd, a friend. For some, the silence of Buddhism feels peaceful. For others, the voice of Jesus feels comforting. Do you find peace in emptiness or in presence? Maybe both paths are ways of returning home. 5. Compassion, a shared foundation. Here the two teachers stand side by side. Buddha taught metta, loving kindness for all beings. He said, hatred does not cease by hatred, but by love alone. Jesus taught, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you. Both walked among the poor, the sick, the forgotten. Both broke social rules to show kindness. Both forgave those who hurt them, and both changed the world, not with armies, but with compassion. 6. Symbols of their path. The Bodhi tree and the cross. The Bodhi tree represents awakening, a place of stillness where illusion ended and truth began. The cross represents sacrifice, a place of pain where death gave birth to resurrection. One symbolizes sitting still, the other, suffering through. But both mark the turning point, from ignorance to wisdom, from fear to freedom, from self to love. 7. A reflection from history. When the two faiths met, did you know that Mahatma Gandhi carried with him a copy of the Bhagavad Gita, the Dhammapada, and the Sermon on the Mount? He didn't see contradiction. He saw harmony. He said, I am a Hindu, I am a Muslim, I am a Christian, I am a Jew. And through nonviolence, rooted in both Buddhist mindfulness and Christian love, he led a nation to freedom. What if we too stopped asking which teaching is right, and started asking what truth we are being invited to live? So, do Buddha and Jesus walk the same road? Not quite, but maybe they point to the same sky. And maybe your own path is made stronger by learning from both. Now that we've seen how their teachings align and differ, let's bring these teachings to life. It's time for Section 5, Stories and Illustrative Examples. You've heard their words. Now let's feel their wisdom through stories that speak directly to the heart. Are you ready? Section 5, Stories and Illustrative Examples. Wisdom in Everyday Life. Why do we remember stories more than sermons? Because stories speak to our hearts, not just our heads. Because they whisper truths too tender to shout, and because sometimes we need to feel before we can understand. Buddha and Jesus both knew this. They didn't force wisdom. They revealed it, slowly, gently, through the everyday lives of ordinary people. Let's step into a few of those stories now. Which one speaks to you? 1. The mustard seed, facing loss with the Buddha. A young woman named Tissa Gotami lost her only child. She held his lifeless body in her arms, refusing to let go. She knocked on every door in her village, begging for medicine. No one could help. Finally, someone told her, "Go to the Buddha." She found him and cried, "Please, Master, bring my child back." The Buddha said, "Bring me a mustard seed from a home untouched by death." She ran from house to house. At each door, someone nodded with compassion. "Yes, I have mustard seeds, but death has also visited us." Tissa Gotami returned with empty hands, but a full heart. She buried her son. And she began to understand. Suffering is not punishment. It is part of the human path. Have you known loss that made the world feel empty? This story doesn't erase that pain. It embraces it, and it reminds us we're not alone. Everyone carries a quiet grief, but in understanding grief, we can begin to heal. 2. The prodigal son, returning with Jesus. Jesus told the story of a man with 2 sons. The younger one asked for his inheritance early. He left home, spent it all on pleasures, on pride, on waste. He ended up feeding pigs, starving, ashamed. So he decided, I'll go back. I'll say I'm sorry. I'll ask to be a servant. He rehearsed his speech all the way home, but before he reached the door, his father saw him and ran to him and embraced him. He didn't wait for an apology. He didn't ask for repayment. He shouted, "Bring the robe. Prepare a feast. My son has returned." Do you know what it feels like to come home, afraid, and be welcomed with love? Have you ever failed and thought you didn't deserve a second chance? This story says, there is always a way home, and love will meet you there. 3. The blind monk and the lamp. Seeing beyond sight. In ancient Japan, there was a blind Zen monk named Tanzan. One evening, he carried a lantern as he walked down a dark road. A traveler laughed. "Why would a blind man carry a light?" Tanzan replied, "So others may not bump into me." Even without physical sight, he chose to light the path for others. Isn't that what compassion is? Even when we're wounded, tired, or unseen, we can still choose to guide. Even if we can't change the world, we can soften the space around us. Have you ever lit someone else's path without them knowing? That too is a sacred act. 4. Forgiveness in war, a Christian soldier's choice. During World War II, a young American soldier named Desmond Doss refused to carry a weapon. He was mocked by his own unit, beaten, threatened, called a coward, but he stood firm in his faith. "Thou shalt not kill." At the Battle of Okinawa, under heavy fire, Doss ran back and forth through enemy lines. He carried 75 wounded soldiers, one by one, to safety, even those who had once cursed him. When asked why, he said, "Because I couldn't leave them behind." Forgiveness is not weakness. It is strength wrapped in gentleness. Can you imagine risking your life for someone who once hated you? Doss did, and so did Jesus. 5. A king's dilemma. Wisdom from the Buddha. King Pasenadi of Kosala once asked the Buddha, "Who is the most powerful person in the world?" He expected a political answer. The Buddha replied, "The one who has conquered himself. Not the richest, not the strongest, but the one who sees clearly, acts kindly, and lives with peace." That day the king bowed, not just with his body, but with his heart. Who holds more power, someone who rules others or someone who rules their own mind? In your life, where do you seek control? And what would it mean to let go? 6. Stories from different worlds. One shared truth across centuries and cultures. These stories carry a single truth. The human heart is the same, longing to be seen, held, and made whole. The Buddha and Jesus did not speak to scholars alone. They spoke to mothers bearing children, to sons who betrayed, to kings full of pride, to soldiers searching for meaning, and to ordinary people just like you and me. Stories are how wisdom travels, from lips to ears, from heart to heart. So which story stayed with you? Which one reflected your life? And what will you carry into tomorrow? Now that we've walked through stories that made their teachings unforgettable, it's time to ask a deeper question. What do these teachings mean for us, right now, in this moment? Let's step into Section 6, Personal Reflections and Creative Insights. Because truth isn't just in temples or churches, it's in your next breath. Shall we continue? Section 6, Personal Reflections and Creative Insights, a bridge between two worlds. After walking alongside Buddha and Jesus, what remains? Not just words, not just stories, but something quieter, something stirring inside. Have you felt it? That soft voice whispering, "This matters to me." Let's take a breath together and reflect not as scholars, but as people, searching for meaning in the rhythm of our everyday lives. 1. Stillness and surrender. 2 ways of coming home. Buddhism invites us into stillness. Jesus invites us into surrender. Stillness says, sit with what is. No rushing, no grasping, just breathing. Surrender says, let go and trust. Not giving up, but opening up. Have you ever tried to fix something by doing more, and it only made things worse? Maybe what you needed wasn't more effort. Maybe it was less resistance. Both the Buddha and Jesus show us, peace doesn't come from control. It comes from release. And what a relief that can be. Number 2, compassion and courage, 2 wings of the same bird. The Buddha said, as a mother would protect her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Jesus said, love one another as I have loved you. These aren't soft words, they're brave ones. Loving others, especially those who are hard to love, takes courage. Forgiving someone who doesn't say sorry, that takes strength, and it begins with one small act. One quiet moment. One breath where you choose peace over pride. Have you ever been changed by someone else's kindness? What if your kindness could be that same spark for someone else? 3. Aging and awakening. A different kind of wisdom. If you're over 50, maybe you've begun to notice. The world gets quieter, but the inner world gets louder. You've loved, you've lost, you've fallen, you've risen, and maybe, just maybe, you're seeing now what you couldn't see at 25. Not just what matters, but what doesn't. Both Buddha and Jesus spoke often to the elderly, not because they were weak, but because they were ready to see through illusions, ready to walk lighter, ready to forgive themselves. What if aging isn't decline, but awakening? 4. Integrating two traditions. Not either or, but both and. You don't have to pick a side. You can meditate in the morning and pray in the evening. You can sit beneath the Bodhi tree and kneel at the foot of the cross. You can embrace emptiness and be filled with grace. Truth isn't a single statue, it's a garden, full of different flowers. Some bloom with silence, others bloom with song. Have you ever felt guilty for being drawn to more than one path? This is your permission to let both live in your heart. Let the Buddha guide your mind. Let Jesus hold your heart. Let both lead you to love. 5. A personal practice. A morning of both light and stillness. Here's something you might try tomorrow morning. Wake up, sit by a window, breathe deeply, whisper, "May I be free from suffering. May I walk in love today." Let these two voices, Buddha and Christ, speak to you as one. Their words do not compete, they complete. And you are the bridge. 6. What do you see now? We've journeyed across time, across traditions, but now it circles back to you. What do you carry from this? Is it the image of a tree in stillness? Is it the open arms of a forgiving father? Is it a mustard seed or a cross? Whatever you carry, may it be light, and may it lead you to love. Now, before we close our eyes for tonight, let's return to where we began. Let's bring together the lessons, the stories, the echoes of these two lives. It's time for Section 7, Final Lessons and Call to Action. This isn't the end. It's the beginning of how these teachings might live in you. Shall we step into that last reflection together? Section 7, Conclusion, A Journey Home to Yourself. You've just walked beside two of history's greatest teachers. You've listened to the Buddha's silence, you felt the warmth of Jesus' embrace. Each offered something timeless, something real. Not to believe, but to live. The Buddha taught us to understand suffering, to sit with it, to breathe through it, to let it teach us. Jesus taught us to love even when it's hard, to forgive even when it hurts, to trust even when we don't understand. Can you see how both paths gently point us inward, to courage, to calm, to compassion? Have you found a part of yourself reflected in these stories? Did a line or a lesson stir your heart? If so, that is where your journey begins. This isn't about being Buddhist or being Christian. It's about being awake, being kind, being present with yourself, with others, with life. You don't need to climb a mountain. You don't need to be a saint. Start small. Watch your breath. Watch your heart. Watch how you speak to others. Have you ever noticed the power in just one kind word? One silent pause? One deep breath? Try it today, then again tomorrow, and see what grows. Thank you for staying until the end. Your time, your presence, it means everything. This space is not about answers, it's about returning to the questions that matter. Who am I when I'm not afraid? What would love do here? What is one small truth I can live today? Take these questions with you. Write them down. Sit with them. Let them soften you. Because sometimes, softness is strength. If this message touched you, I invite you to stay close. Please consider subscribing to Son.Mindfulness. This channel is a quiet place, a gentle voice, a space made for you. There will be more reflections, more stories, more time to grow together. Your thoughts are precious. Please share them in the comments below. What did you feel? Which teaching stays with you tonight? What will you carry into your tomorrow? Wherever you are right now, may you feel safe, May you feel seen. May your body be healthy. May your spirit be light. May you know you are not alone. You are loved. You are enough. You are exactly where you need to be. Thank you again for being here. I wish you peace. I wish you joy. I wish you all the goodness that life can give. Until next time, stay mindful, stay kind, and stay beautifully human. Thank you.